All right, I think that means that we are live. This is the Beautiful Nation crew. My name is Tonya Lovejoy, and I've got my fellow mates with me here. If everyone wants to just give a shout out and say where they are in the world, I am in Chicago, Illinois, in the United States. Jess, how about you?
Sure. I'm Jess, and I am currently in Washington, D.C., our nation's capital.
I'm just in Tampa, Florida.
I'm Masha. I'm in Brooklyn, New York.
I'm Shannon. I'm from Washington State, but I'm currently in New Orleans, Louisiana, with my lovely sister Sunny.
Hi.
Hello.
All right, I think that means that we are live. This is the Beautiful Nation crew. My name is Tonya Lovejoy, and I've got my fellow mates with me here. All right. So that's interesting. I just learned that I could listen to myself because we're recording and there's a slight delay here. So tonight we were just gathering online to do what we normally do on Tuesdays, which is talk about the project. We each have different roles aboard the ship and we bring different perspectives. And I think one of the things that's most interesting about the Beautiful Nation project is the medium and the media that we choose to use to communicate with students. We could be doing a documentary film, we could be writing short stories and putting them into magazines and print. We could be working towards a book. There's all sorts of different ways to share and tell stories, and we're doing digital media stories. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about the Voyage of Makulu and then the digital media stories that we're going to produce. In short, the Voyage of Makulu is set to launch in fall of 2014. We are the crew of the Makulu. Justin is our lighthouse keeper. He'll be manning the ship from his operation deck in Tampa, Florida. And what that means is he is connecting classrooms, students, and educators with us while we're sailing on this real global expedition via geosocial network. So digital media stories, geosocial networking, how does this all play out and how does this make learning fun for kids? That is what we're going to talk about. So Jess, you've got a lot of experience with online media, and I was hoping you could tell us a little bit more about exactly what digital media stories entail and how they can be used in the classroom.
Sure. So digital media stories are kind of what they sound like. They are stories, and it's been shown through lots of different research that storytelling is a great way for kids to learn. The fact that they're digital just means that there's additional types of multimedia that go along with those stories. So there will be things like photos, video, music, audio. So if you've ever listened to a podcast, it's almost like watching a podcast with imagery. It's a much more interactive way to engage with students. Teachers can use them in all different kinds of ways. They're really great for introing a subject. So if you want to talk about marine life and you actually have some of us studying marine life or looking at marine life and different objects, it's often a lot easier to talk about something that you're seeing rather than drawing from personal experience if that personal experience doesn't exist. It's also really more of a personal way for the kids to actually know people who are doing things that are centered around different educational topics. Teachers can also use this for virtual book club discussions. They can also use the digital media stories to get kids to think about their own ways of using multimedia and stories that they'd like to produce. So there's just a lot of different uses for it. It's very flexible. It's not like watching an hour-long movie. You can take little snippets, 3 minutes here, 5 minutes there, and incorporate it into your lesson as used in tips.
Awesome description. And so when we think about today's classrooms, a lot of time teachers have one-to-one ratios of computers to students. They might have smart boards. So depending on your class, even mobile technology would allow students to take in these more diverse streams of information in different forms that might appeal to their learning style. One of the things that you mentioned, Jess, is about understanding different different subject areas than you may traditionally think about being part of storytelling. Storytelling, we think of culture, we think of narrative, fictional tales, but nonfiction and interdisciplinary literacy, those skills are actually ever more important with the amount of technology we have and the stories that our students are exposed to through digital media. So Shannon, I was wondering, since you are our onboard scientist extraordinaire, when we think about all the digital tools we have available, we think about hands-on science. How do you see digital tools actually working to enhance science learning without even taking away from that hands-on aspect, in fact, even maybe increasing it?
Well, it's really interesting that we're surrounded by technology consistently, constantly, and it's becoming more and more complex. But I don't feel like we have a really good connection with how to use that hands-on technology to explore our world. I mean, when you think about science literacy, you're basically hoping that everyone, all of our wonderful students, are going to come out of our classrooms being able to use scientific methods and to make intelligent decisions about our world. And we need that for our society. What we're hoping to do is we're hoping to take some hands-on science skills and use our technology to enhance that learning process, to give them a snapshot of how even college students use that hands-on technology in their college classrooms. For example, we're going to be doing water quality, and water is ubiquitous. We see it everywhere. We're going to be floating on it. It's wonderful. However, you know, it's actually more complex than we take for granted. And really delving into that, looking at those complex pieces of water, pH, how healthy is that water for all of us to live? Does it carry bacteria? We can actually do studies and we could do hands-on learning about those individual qualities of water, investigate our water in our area, and then take that information, for example, and plug that information into our smartphones, share that information along our geosocial network. Then classrooms, one to another, can compare. And that is exactly what happens in college classrooms around the world. We would love to have kids looking at their world, exploring their world, but with a framework aided by technology. It's not a distraction. We want to help them use that technology to learn skills for their future.
That is a perfect segue. Thinking about technology as a way to link information, create a framework. For educators who may be listening to this, the picture that we're trying to paint for you is that we're going to be producing weekly articles that are aligned with your standards, accompanied by photos and videos, so you've got colorful things to engage your students in a personal way. And then we've got applications that help to make science learning in the real time in the classroom more accessible and more like the real world. So EpiCollect is a free water quality app that helps with citizen science data collection. We're going to be using that. Another thing that we're doing is to give that context to bring these stories into the students' everyday life. Is to link them with maps. And so I'm going to introduce Justin, who is our lighthouse keeper. One of the things that we do with our students is a freehand mapping activity. This is a very simple way to measure a very tangible impact in the students' learning. And what I mean by that is that we can look at, and I'm not sure this is going to come through here, there we go. We can see that there are cognitive levels to students learning how to draw an accurate map of the world. And what our digital media stories, what these applications that promote hands-on science, and then the context of placing all this digital media onto a map, a real live organic map, is that students get to see their place in the greater global community. So Justin, will you just talk a little bit about how you see maps promoting literacy and bringing, giving our stories more significance?
Well, layering the data that we will be collecting along the way and pulling in data from other researchers that are to the journey really puts the stories that we are telling into a real world context, and allows kids to really experience what it's like to be in another place, experience what other kids might be going through by learning more about energy. They are able to use energy in their area, how they are able to get water, what the water quality is there. That is all data that can be layered on a map, and it can also give educators the ability to mix and match the content together and create custom stories built out of our stories. Aside from giving another way of navigating the voyage of Makulu, aside from the website, it also puts it to a point where the kids are able to reach out and feel like they're touching the crew members aboard Makulu, because they can see where they are, and they can sorry about that. They can actually engage it. They can understand the meaning of place, and how all of these stories that we were telling fit into relationships and human relationships with the places. Sorry about this.
Okay.
Human relationships with the places that we live.
We got
a
rough
lot
seas over there, Justin?
Yeah, rough seas. A lot like water. We'll be gathering in underdeveloped places. They gather water together. It's a family ordeal to gather water, and like a team, we'll be gathering this knowledge together and then pumping it back out into the community so that it can be absorbed in different ways all around the world. And when we're finished, when all of this is said and done, we'll be able to travel backwards through the journey because of maps. We'll be able to go to a place and actually relive these experiences through videos and photos, and really put it into a context that people can understand its geographic understanding of the world.
Thanks, Justin. Yeah, that's one of the things that the research I showed you, when our fiscal sponsor Reach the World's research about mapping and students' cognitive development, shows that geography is really a personal process. And when I mean personal, I mean that we tend to know the things that are most familiar. We know places where we have stories, that we know people who have told them to us. So one of the ways that we can foster that personal connection between classrooms and the crew is not only through video conferences like this and in-person school visits, but actually through the imagery that we choose. And Masha is our onboard artist extraordinaire, just like each one of us has our super talent. Masha, one of the things that intrigues me about video and images is how it can be used to change people's perception or idea about something. So how do you feel that the videos and photos can bring life to the text-based stories that we tell?
Well, I really think that videos and photos can bring text to life in a very personal way, where if you read a story, you kind of get your own visuals, and it's kind of and you have to use your imagination, which is great too, and imagine these places, and a lot of it seems magical and mythical, and you don't really connect fully. I feel like with video, when you can see what is actually going on and what the story is about, it can really bring it to a different level that's effortless and maybe more familiar to students and just to all of us, really. I think that's all. That's all I got.
I remember one of your favorite directors, and Jess as well, Werner Herzog, mentioned that his life quest was to make new images, that if I called you to think about the Grand Canyon, you would have an image imprinted in your mind that might be a travel poster that a couple thousand other people conjure up when they think of the Grand Canyon. And so creating original, authentic images, new images, and allowing people, students, to understand that for every story there's an image that's captured, and it's it's
Yeah. there's this association that comes in with visuals that we see to stories that is unlike anything else. You know, we grow up with these children's books that we look at, and we see images. The first books that we have are just images, and we learn to associate things by seeing these images. So in life now, when we all of us watch videos, YouTube videos, you know, different videos of pets and things and whatever is out there, it creates some sort of a world for us. So I think to see what is being told to you is an experience that all of us understand and expect, and kind of really are so used to that we can't. Well, I'm sure we can still imagine, but you know, I feel like it's a very important tool because most people really rely on it in order to understand something that is happening somewhere where they're not.
Absolutely. And that is going to just about wrap up our session. I did want to ask Sunday, who is our classroom educator, if you wanted to add anything from your perspective when you think about using technology in the classroom, the voyage of Makulu. How do you see these digital media stories helping you to engage your students?
I see them helping me immensely. I love what I'm hearing, and I'd like to thank each of you for your expertise, because what I hear is ways that students become excited about learning about science, about geography, about integrating the arts, and taking those various fields across the curriculum, and then integrating art as well. So I love it. It's beautiful. Students are interested in technology. They're interested in sailing around the world, and it sounds like y'all are bringing that all together. So thank you so much.
You are welcome. Well, that is going to wrap up tonight. So this is a presentation from the Floating Classroom, The Voyage of Makulu. You can learn more about the voyage and enroll your classroom by visiting www.beautifulnationproject.org. And you can also email the crew at thebeautifulnationproject@gmail.com. We hope to hear from you. Have a great night. Adios, everybody. Thank you. Bye.
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 Like